Greetings everybody and welcome to Gizmo Labs, where I show you all the tips and tricks you need to become a pro at Grounded Playgrounds. In this episode, we're going to be discussing the Telepotty gizmo, which allows you to go ahead and teleport your players to other places on your map. Now you can go ahead and set these up on individual channels, and we're also going to be going over how to make a teleporter hub so that you can go and press a button like this and then get teleported to a random place like this. Or if we were to press this button right here, we could change it over and teleport to another random place just like this. There's lots of things you can do with telepotties, so without any further ado, let's get started! The first thing we're going to talk about is how the telepotty actually works, and then we're going to go and make the telepotty portal hub so you can see how it's all done. First of all, you can find a telepotty in your gameplay and fun section of all the gizmos and gadgets. So let me get one of these, and we're going to place this into the world just like that. Now, if we go into play mode, you'll see that if I walk into this thing, currently nothing happens. The telepotty is turned on, as you can see by its purple glow, but it's not actually teleporting me anywhere. So how do we go and make this work? What we need to do is go back into the design view, and then we're going to clone this thing, and I'm going to move this over here just a little bit like that. Now you can see that both of these telepotties have been set to channel 1. Essentially, a telepotty will teleport you to another telepotty on the same channel. Now if you have several of these, it can cause issues, so I recommend that when you use a telepotty, you make sure that you only have one pair of telepotties set to the same channel, unless you're doing a portal hub, which we're going to go over in the episode a bit later on. But now what we should find is if I go ahead and step in this one, I'll come out of the one on the other side, and my character has gone and teleported straight away. The telepotty can be customized as well, so if we go and look in the customization options, you can set whether it's active by default. So if I turn this off, you can see it actually goes ahead and deactivates, which can be useful if you need to trigger the activation from something else. Say we needed to kill some creatures, and then it will activate once those creatures are killed to allow us to move to the next section of our map. You could go ahead and do something like that, for example. You also get to customize the channel on the telepotty as well. So you can see that by default it'll be set to channel 1, but if we go ahead and set this to say channel 6, you'll see now that if I use the telepotty in play mode, well, it's actually not going to work. The reason it's not teleporting me to that one anymore is because this one here is still set to channel 1. So if I wanted to make this one work again, I would again need to go ahead and put this over to channel 6, just like this. So I'm going to go and put this to channel 6 just like that, and then you can see that we've got a telepotty that's going to connect both of these together. So if I go into play mode, you'll see that once again, I can go ahead and teleport to the other one. Sometimes you may run into a situation where you need to set up more than a few telepotties on the same channel. Now, if you have more than 2, this is where the strange behavior will start to occur, but I will show you exactly how it works. I've gone and set up 4 telepotties all on the same channel. As you can see, it's all channel 6, but it doesn't really matter. If they're on the same channel, the teleporting behavior will actually be random. So if you watch, if I go into this first one, you'll see that it's actually transported me to the second one. If I go in the first one again, once again it's teleported me, but this time it's taken me to the 4th one. Again, if I go into the first one again, well, this time it took me to the second one, and if I go into it again, you can see that it actually took me to the 3rd one. So when you have several telepotties on the same channel, it will randomly choose any of the others linked onto the same channels, which means if you're making a map, say for example an arena map or like a PvP map, you could make it so that players get teleported randomly to different spots, so they'll never know where they end up when they go through the teleporter. That could also add some interest and a bit more dynamics to your PvP maps, in particular if you're making some of those kinds of arenas. So if you want random behavior from teleporters, you don't even need to set up any random chance or random selector gizmo that selects a channel on the other side. Literally just make all these telepotties have the same channel, and the randomness will take care of itself. The really cool thing about the telepotty is it doesn't just work with players, it also works with pretty much everything else, including held items, just like this. You can see that it transported the hammer over to the other side whilst preserving some of the momentum. Or I could do it this way, and you can see that it actually transported the hammer behind me, just like that. So you can use it to do items and teleport items to new places if you want to. The other thing that it also works with is creatures, although it doesn't tend to work with all the creatures in the game. I've noticed that some of the larger creatures don't trigger this, but mid to small creatures do. So for example, if I was to go ahead and spawn in a Allweaver Jr. right over there, let's go into play mode again, and you'll see that he will try and avoid the telepotty initially, but if you can trigger an attack so that he goes into the telepotty, he will get teleported over to another area, which could be really cool to maybe do some kind of creature puzzle. But you can see by default he will try and avoid the telepotty, but then if you can manage to trigger an attack over there, he will go ahead and teleport as well. Just like that. For the final part of this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make a portal hub so that you can have one telepotty link you into different places depending on which of these buttons you press down. In this example, I'm going to show you how to do one with 3, however you can expand this to as much as you like, although the circuitry will become quite a bit more complicated if you want to do a lot of these for a single portal hub. The first thing I'm going to do is move my telepotty over here out front a bit, just so you can see the circuitry a bit easier, and you'll also want to go ahead and set other telepotties on different channels in the locations where you want your player or other objects to teleport to. For example, I've got a grassy area with channel 1, I've got a weed stem area with channel 2, and I've got a mushroom brick area with channel 3, just so you can see the differences when we go ahead and teleport, and it'll make it a bit easier to spot. So let's come out of HandyNet, and the first thing I want to do is grab a counter with a condition. So let's go make one of those. So in order to grab that, we need to go to, I think I'm actually in play mode right now, so I want to come back into design mode, and let's grab one counter with condition. Now, if you don't know how these work, I do have another video that goes over exactly how the counter with condition works. But what we want to do is we want to set this counter with condition to be greater than 0, and we only want it to toggle when there is a condition change. Otherwise, it's not going to do anything. Next up, we're going to link this counter with condition to our telepotty, just like this, and we want to say when the condition is passed, we're going to customize it, and we're essentially going to set this to the channel that we want it to go to. When the condition is failed, we just want to do nothing. We don't want to do anything if the condition is failed, because the pass condition is going to essentially tell us what channel this telepotty is going in on. So now we're going to go and copy this and make 2 more counter with conditions. For the second one, I'm going to go into the customize option here, and I'm going to change this to channel 2, just like that. If I can, there you go. And then for the third one, we're going to go and change this to channel 3. So let's make sure that is set to channel 3. So if we get a signal in this first one, it'll turn it to channel 1. If we get a signal in number 2, it'll turn it to 2. And if we get one in 3, then it's going to go and turn it into number 3. The next thing we need to do is make it so that these counter with conditions go ahead and change the color of the buttons after they're pressed. So let's go ahead and start with the simple thing first. When we press the button, we fire a signal down this counter with condition that changes the thing. So we go and do this. So we go and send the signal from here, and we say once the button is pressed, it will increment the counter. That's all we need to do for each of these. So I'm going to do this for each of our buttons, just like this. There we go. Now, what we also want to do is have an indication of which channel is currently active. So in order to do that, well, the first thing we're going to have to do is set up a link from our counter back to our button. And then when the condition is passed, we want to customize the button to be a different color. So let's go ahead and change it to, let's just say it will change it to 100. When it's failed, we want to customize it back to the red color. So we're just going to go customize it and set it to 0. We're going to do exactly the same for these other 2 right here. So far it seems pretty simple. So we'll customize that again to, we can maybe make this a different color. Maybe make this one 140. Then on condition failed, it's just going to go back to the regular color. And then finally, for this last one, we customize this one, and then we can do another customize. So we need to customize this one, and this time maybe we'll go to 240, and then on condition failed, we will go ahead and customize it to 0 again. So it will return to red if another button is pressed. Now, this so far is quite simple, but this is also where the circuitry is going to get a little bit more complicated if you want to use lots and lots of stuff for your portal hub. So if you want many different destinations, this will become a little bit crazy when it comes to the other part of the circuit. The final thing we need to do is make it so that when we press a button, it will go ahead and disable the other counters and reset them back to 0. So what we need to do is we need to make a link from each of our buttons into the other counter with conditions that they're not currently linked to. So we're going to go and grab these. It might be helpful to go into first person if you're struggling to see it, or use the HandyNet first person, which is also super useful. So we're going to set a link from each of these buttons to the other switches that we didn't link it to before, or these other counters right here. So each of these things, because we have 3 destinations, each of our counter with conditions now should have 3 arrows pointing towards it, just like that. Once we've done that, the straight ones we've already configured. However, these ones that are kind of crossing over each other, we need to go ahead and configure these. First of all, we need to set a value on the counter of 1, just like this, and then we need to decrement it back down by 1 so it goes to 0. And we need to do this with every single one. So we set a value to 1, and we decrement to 0. Now, you may be asking, why don't I just set the value to 0 rather than set it to 1 and decrement to 1? The reason I do this is because I want the counter to fire an event, and if you just set a value and leave it as a set value, it won't actually go ahead and do an event, which means that you can't pick up a signal coming from the output. So you definitely want to make sure that you do a set value to like 1 higher than you need it to, and then it decrements, just like this. So we're going to set a value here to 1. One more time, and we decrement, and then for the last one, again, we just set a value, just like that. And then we set that to 1, and finally we go ahead and decrement. So set to 1 and decrement, just like that. So what's going to happen now is if I was to, for example, press this button, it would increase the counter right here up by 1, and every time I press it, it will keep increasing it to 1. Now, because this is now greater than 0, it's going to send a signal down here to make the telepotty channel change, and it's also going to color the button a different color from this link right here. Lastly, it's going to go ahead and look at these 2 counters here and reset these back to 0, but also firing an event back up to here so that any other buttons will return to their default color once pressed. Finally, we're going to go ahead and put down an effect spawner with our telepotty. Now I'm going to move the telepotty just over here, just like that. So you can see that the circuit, I moved it out initially because the circuitry was a little bit difficult to see, but we want to go ahead and make an effect spawner so that whenever the button is pressed, it will go ahead and play a little effect underneath it. So let's go do that. So we need an effect spawner right here, and I'm going to put this one into the ground just very slightly. So let's put it there, and we can select it, and we want to customize it just like this. So we can go here, select that one if I can reach it. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to reach, and we're going to customize this to play the super duper, and then we will go ahead and scale this to 2. So whenever we press a button, we should see this thing scale to 2. So if we now go into play mode, what should happen right now, if I go back into third person because it's a bit easier to see, I'll press this button. It will go ahead and link this to 1. Now, as you can see, this didn't actually work right. And why did that not work? Well, let's have a look. The reason it didn't work is because we didn't actually link our effect spawner into anything. So that's definitely something we need to take care of as well. Totally forgot to link that. So from each of these counterweight conditions, we'll go and link this also to our effect spawner, just like that. Unfortunately, you cannot link directly to a telepotty from it and say, you know, detect when a channel has changed or something. That would be a nice thing for the future, but for now, we're just going to do this. So yeah, I totally forgot to do the link, so let's do that. Set that down there. Now let's try again. So finally, we'll press this, and if I press this now, you should go and see an effect spawn right there. And now, if we step into this, we go to the green room. So we'll go back again. If I press the middle button, you can see we got a blue color now. I press this one, and I've gone into my weed stem room. And finally, if I press this one, the blue one, and enter it one more time, I've now gone to my mushroom brick room, just like that. So you can see that this portal hub essentially allows me to go into any of these 3 rooms at the push of a button. The final thing you might want to do is make it so that when you first approach this portal hub, it's turned off by default and the button has to activate it. No worries, all you need to do is turn this to deactivated by default, and then when your player first spawns in the world, they will go and see an empty telepotty right there, and as soon as they press a button, it will go ahead and activate it and set it to the destination. And now we have some visual information on where our character is going to go and end up. And with that, we have come to the end of another Grounded Playgrounds tutorial. I hope after watching this video, you've got a bit more understanding on how the telepotty works and come up with some more creative ideas on how you can use this in some maps of your own. I do want to say as well that if you didn't understand how the counterweight condition worked, then please go ahead and check out the playlist of all the Gizmo Labs tutorials, because there is one covering the logic gizmos, which should hopefully clear some things up. I also have other examples from Gizmo Labs to do with timers and many of the other gizmos that already exist in the game as well. So if you do want to go ahead and find out more stuff, then please keep checking out the other videos and let me know if there's anything that you'd like to know on how to set up in the playground yourself, because I'm always happy to make more videos to help you guys make the best maps that you possibly can, because the Grounded Playgrounds feature is only going to get better with time. But that's going to be all from me, guys. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. So until then, bye!